Welcome along to Top Shelf Tech. I am Jeremy Nees, and today we are talking about EON. So EON caught my eye about probably 4 months ago when, in somewhat spectacular fashion, EON emerged from stealth and landed with what's probably close, fairly close, if I'm just rounding up a bit, to $1 billion valuation. For I guess a new player to emerge in the backup space, which maybe historically we've thought backup's been done lots of times, but to emerge like this to say, hey, we've got something that people are looking at and are valuing at a really high valuation from the get-go. I thought, oh, this is interesting. So let's take a look at that. So today I'd like to welcome along Dr. Assaf Natanzon. Sorry if I pronounced that pronounced your name not quite right there, but the chief architect from EON, to talk us through a little bit about EON. Assaf, do you want to just introduce yourself to start?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Assaf Natanzon. Thank you for introducing me. Prior to EON, I used to be like the CTO of the data protection of EMC, including data domain, Avamar, Networker, Recover Point, Vplex, etc. A very big business. After I helped build the data protection division for Huawei storage, we released the Ocean Protect, which is like a purposely built backup appliance, which include also the backup software. And about 8 months ago, I joined EON to take part of this new revolution of building a cloud-native backup and making backup right, I think, for the first time.
So if I pick up on that, that statement, making backup right for the first time, backup isn't a new thing. And in fact, only sort of probably a decade ago, we saw another kind of evolution of backup with companies like Rubrik, Actifio, Cohesity. So what is EON focused on, and what's the problem you're trying to solve?
So EON tries to solve the backup problem in the multi-cloud realm. There are a lot of problems when you try to backup today with the old on-prem born solutions like Rubrik and Cohesity. First of all, let's start with defining the backup. Today, usually you define backup by defining the resources based on tags and stuff like that. And this is very complex because usually what you would like to do is find out which resources are important. For example, resources that have personal information or health information, and back them up in a different way than how you back up resources which have like non-important data. Basically, what EON does, it discovers your data. It's an agentless deployment. It discovers your data and not just and classifies all the internals of your data. So we understand if there is like personal information. We understand what kind of applications are installed on your VMs. And then when you define your backup policies, you can define a policy saying, okay, backup all the virtual machines and RDS servers, the virtual machines which have databases inside, and the RDS instances which have PIIs, and for them give this backup policy. And if the data is in production, give another data policy, and if it's not in production, give this data policy. And obviously, we detect also drifts in the data. So, for example, if you had a VM that didn't have personal information, and now you deployed something inside this VM, and now you have personal information, then the resource will be classified differently and applied to another backup policy.
So this means that in effect, there's a DSPM module built into EON. Is that sort of the from a data discovery perspective?
Yes, it's similar to the DSPM, but it's focused on backup. Basically, we are completely non-intrusive. You just give EON like some role that allows us to take snapshots of your data and copy the snapshots to an account where we do all the scanning. And so you don't need to install any agents. You don't need to install any run any VM or some Kubernetes cluster in your environment. You just give us the role, and like DSPM products, we take the data to the side, we scan it, we back it up, and basically you can then set the policies based on the content and not based on the tags, because as you know, managing tags is a nightmare. You can 99% you forgot to update the tag if something happened. A lot of time you misclassify the data because you do it manually. This is a nightmare. So the first step with EONS is first it's like agentless and very, very easy to deploy. Second, it lets you define the policies based on the content and not based on some tags. But I think the biggest value is actually what happens when you want to restore the data. So unlike cloud services, that provide you just the backup is an opaque black box that you can just restore it. We actually let you query the data or let you access the data of the backup, making the backup data basically like a data lake. So if you back up a database, you can search for tables based on content. So let's say I'm backing up like 1,000 databases and they have like 100,000 tables inside, and I would like to find like a specific table. I can just search for the table in the EON UI based on some content. For example, find me table which has like a social security number, or table which the name is that, and then you will get all the list of tables that you find. You can then go to this table, see which backups you have for the table, and even run query on every backup directly without bringing the machine. So this means, for example, if you have some auditing and you need to prove that you can find a record from 10 years ago, now you don't need like today, like to try bring something from the backup. Go to the backup administrator, ask him to restore me this backup, and then try to access the backup. And after like this process takes hours and even days, and then you find out that you restored the incorrect table, and you are in a very very, very bad situation because you have to start this all over. With EON, you can search for the table, you can run the query directly and show the auditor, for example, immediately that you have this record without the need even to restore it.
So obviously, at a practical level, you log into the EON console, you can select a database server, and you can run a SQL query directly on it, or potentially across multiple backup sources at the same time, or do you target a particular source?
So currently the feature is that you select the database and the time, and you can query about it. But over time we will evolve this. Very soon you will be able to run query across tables, and so even if you want like to get some information and use this as a data lake where you aggregate data from multiple sources to get what you want, it will be possible very soon.
Oh, very interesting. So then you've classified the data, you've set a policy, you've captured the data, you can now query the data, and then you sort of talked about making backup right. Backup exists, primarily for one reason, for restoration purposes. So what does that look like from an EON perspective in terms of then bringing that data back when you need it?
So this is another big advantage of EON. So obviously, as any other backup product, you can just restore the whole resource back. Like you can restore the whole database machine, the whole RDS machine back, or the whole virtual machine, or the whole bucket back. But what EON provides on top of it is the ability to restore like single elements and do fine granular restores. For example, because you can run the queries on the table, we can export you like a lot of customers have like a very big databases that are that are multi-tenant and serve a lot of their customers. And at the end, if one customer has a corruption, they need to actually bring back all the database, restore this specific table of the customer, and then bring it back to the primary database. With EON, you can just restore a single table, a single row, a single column. This makes life much easier. The same is true for objects and files. You can restore a single file, single objects, and on top of it, we have like just released. I think it was announced today. Our ransomware integration. So basically, when we scan your data, we understand where you have ransomware, and for example, when you will explore the file system in the backup, you'll see which files are suspected as corrupted. You'll see which version of the machine is completely clean. But even if you dive into a version of the machine, and you look at the version which is which is corrupted. You will see which files are corrupted. When you look in the file, you will see which copies of the files we have which are corrupted and which copies of the file we have before the corruption. So it's very, very easy to find, even in a single file level or a full directory or full machine, if the full machine is clean, or if the file, you want a specific file to find the latest clean version. This can be done within seconds, and not like starting to look at multiple backups and understanding which file is the correct one. We will also have like a full directory download, where you can download like a full directory, and for each file you will take the latest clean version. So
when we're talking about corruption there as well, does that include something that's been encrypted from from ransomware, for example? So you can see that the files change quite considerably in its state.
Definitely. So we do deep scan of the data. So when we do the backup, we fully understand which files are encrypted, which files are suspected as encrypted. We even can detect, the file format changes. So if you have a Word file which is not behaving like a Word file, we will be able to detect it and tell you, okay, this file stopped becoming Word file, although it's a docx file. But from this version, it's not. You will not be able to open the file.
And I think just from a naming perspective as well, EON sort of has coined this term, which I don't think I've seen anywhere else, of cloud backup posture management. And I think probably some of what you're starting to touch on now, because that sounds like a security term, quite frankly, and some of what you're starting to describe, I think, demonstrates how lots of backup vendors want to be classified as security tools right now because, very simply, I think you get a higher valuation. What you're describing actually demonstrates that linkage between how backup can be used from a sort of posture management perspective, understand the security of the data. So that's quite an interesting angle.
Yeah, so posture management, if I look at all the posture management and all the security feature of EON, we have multiple. So let's start with the identity. If you look at the NIST, how you handle cybersecurity issues, then first there is identify. Yep. You need to identify which sources are important. So this is the first part of our cloud backup posture manager, where we scan the data and we tell you, oh, look, these are the important sources, and this helps you like decide, okay, today you will maybe back up. You either back up too much because you back up all your resources for the maximum amount of time, or you back up too little because it's too expensive for you. But with EON, you will be able to identify which resources are important and which resources are less important, and be able to back up each resource correctly. So this is the first part of cloud backup posture management. And also we detect the drift. So if there is a change in the data type, we understand it, and we will change automatically the backup policy for this data. So this is the first thing. The second part of our security abilities is the air gap. All our backups are air gapped. Basically, we have like a scanning account where we bring the snapshots and scan them, and then there is like a vault account where we keep the data. So this vault account is just an account where which has the S3 access abilities, and we also lock the object. So basically, you are completely protected, and even if your account is your main account is compromised, you have this air gap. The next part is obviously the detection part, where we detect where files are encrypted by a lot of things, extensions, entropy, things that the file type is indeed the file types that you expect, and a lot of other things that I cannot elaborate. So we understand which backups are clean, which backups are not clean, which files in the backup are clean and not clean. And when you restore, we can first of all help you restore the clean parts. If you want the full VM, we can let you know which latest version is clean. If you want just like files, we can bring you like the less clean version of the file. So basically, it's a full cyber protection against ransomware.
Cool. I mean, and I think that sort of the sort of how you can practically take a backup and backup product and kind of incorporate it into that NIST view as an example. I think that kind of actually helps people shift from backups being an operational only kind of task to actually how do they come into this broader realm of our security frameworks and how we are managing our broader posture overall. One of the areas I think with you touched on public cloud backup, and quite frankly, some of it's still quite rudimentary. Around the ability to snapshot VMs, what kind of you can do in terms of how regularly you can do it, how you can restore them. But there does at least exist functionality around some of the VM stuff. Microservices is almost another area entirely in cloud, and there's lots of different schools of thought in terms of how people will protect their microservices. Do they just focus on redeployment with CI/CD pipelines and Terraform, those kind of approaches? Where does EON sort of what's the view from EON's perspective on how you might protect more microservices architectures moving forward?
I'm not sure I followed the question.
So more stuff like, for example, if in AWS you're running, you've got Lambda functions, or you've got AWS step functions, you've got, serverless database products, so you're not protecting them at a server level. Does EON sort of encompass a view around how you might protect those kind of services?
So definitely, already we are, again, I'm not sure it was released or if it will be released in the next few days. We are adding support for the AWS Kubernetes service, where we will be able to back up EKS, and you can choose like which namespace you back up and then which secret you want to back up. So this is the first thing. Over time, we're going to support all types of services, whether it's all the types of databases, whether it's things like Atlas, like Atlas MongoDB. So also external database services which are not like directly provided by the cloud, but by some other vendor that's in the cloud. All the Lambda-based databases. So the plan is to give like a whole solution which support all the cloud and let you manage everything from a single console in a very easy way, and not to have you like make you have like a 100 solution, because for example in AWS you cannot back up EKS, for example, and if you have Atlas, you need to back up Atlas with the Atlas tools and not with the AWS tools. So the goal is to be like a big one-stop shop for all your data backup.
Cool. And today you're already multi-cloud, aren't you? So I believe you've got support for AWS, Azure, and GCP.
So GCP support is not yet available, but it will be available. I cannot give the date, but it will be available. You will be able to see us in Google Next. But Azure and AWS are already GA'd. And over time, you asked me before what we're going to add over time. Over time, we're going to add support for all the clouds, for all the services inside the cloud. For all the type of databases, for all external services, like if you have Elasticsearch database from Elasticsearch, and then you'll be able also to back it up with EON and get all the value of EON for this database, and have everything seamlessly backed up and not need like 100 tools, which very hard to manage, very hard to understand how much you pay. With EON, it's very easy to understand how much you pay. Another very nice thing with EON, if you compare it directly to the cloud, is the pricing. Basically, you get a huge amount of extra features, but the price goes down because our pricing is similar to the cloud price, and the goal is to actually make it cheaper than the cloud native backups.
Okay, well that adds an extra interesting twist, doesn't it? If you can get all the extra functionality at the same price point. So you sort of talked about just as well, a couple of feature releases that you've just either in the midst of doing or have just performed. So EON's moving pretty quickly. What might we expect to see from EON over the next few months?
So as I told you already, I don't know if it's already GA today. It's already like some public release about the ransomware protection, EKS support, supporting for more databases like Elasticsearch, like MongoDB. So basically, supporting Google Cloud. So what you should expect: supporting more cloud, supporting all the native services of the cloud that are already supported by the cloud, supporting all the services of the cloud that are not supported by the clouds today. So over time, we would like to be like a full single one-stop shop for all the backup of any resource.
Awesome. Well, look, thanks a lot for joining us again today. That's been quite interesting to get a deeper insight into EON, and in particular, I think, just from my perspective, kind of understanding that in this framework, understanding what you do around data discovery. I hadn't actually realized that there's that kind of discovery model, and then also just, I guess, your approach to how you take your snapshot and you're removing that air gap in the environment, not only classifying the data but making it available to search. So yeah, that's been really interesting from my perspective. So thanks a lot for joining us. Anything else you want to leave us with, Assaf?
No, I don't see anything. I'm just really excited, because we are bringing the future for backup. And I think, I've been in the backup and disaster recovery realm for 25 years. And really, this is the first time where I see a product where, it's coming close to like zero-click backup, where, the system will know what you need to back up and understand your needs and regulations and everything, and do the work for you with like minimal cost and maximum abilities, without all the headache that you have with backup today.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to seeing more of it, because I think backup's one of those thankless tasks sometimes. So plenty of people will be thankful if you can make it that simple.
Yeah, exactly. And today the backup is like a black box that you just pay and you get nothing back. Now, if your backup becomes your data lake as well, like and you basically get your ETL for free, and the data is already there, and you can actually monetize on it, then backup becomes like something completely different.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure you guys must be absolutely flat out building the future with EON. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.